Guys, and welcome to our next part. And in the previous part we have set up the item structures and variables and things that we're going to be using for our character, for our inventory system. And in this video what I want to do is I want to do something like for example, right, just give you an example here right now. Just gonna add a cube here. I just want to make sure so when the player comes in here and press E or any button that you wish to set up, we can pick this item. In essence, just delete the item from the word so we can actually get the item, add to the inventory, and then we can start to display some UI and things like this. So probably not going to be displaying the UI in this video, but we're going to make sure we have all the logic and systems and triggers that we can actually use to make sure that our game works fine, right? So first thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to go here to our main folder. I'm going to create another folder here called blueprints. So I'm just going to call here blueprints, right? In this one, we're going to create another, we're going to create a blueprint class actor, and we're going to call this BP base item. Yep. Save all, and there we go. So the base item will have a couple of variables in there. So the first one we want to do here is we want to add a static mesh or a mesh cube. Let me just check here. How can I? Oh yeah, sorry. I need to go to the blueprints mesh. Let's add a static mesh. Right. So our mesh here, we're gonna add a cube for now. Yeah, set a small cube. File and save. Let's just drag and drop this here, and let's press play for now. Right. There we go. So we have our cube. Right now it's not doing anything. Let's just make sure. So first thing I want to do here is on my blueprint, I want to create a variable, and I want to call here enable physics. Enable let's see, gravity, right? Or enable physics. I'm not sure yet. Let's see. So I'm just gonna make sure that's public. Yeah, make sure you click the I. Normally when you create a boolean variable, you should always start with B, and then you call for example, B capital enable, because in this way we know it's a boolean variable. Right, so in here I am gonna get the event graph, right? So I'm just gonna get here my static mesh. I'm gonna set simulate physics, yeah. And actually, let's rename this. So it's gonna be B enable physics, right? And by default, this is gonna be true. Let's make sure that's true. And then all I want to do here is just gonna get a variable, put it in there. And so when our object starts, it will enable the physics, so our character can interact with. Because in sometimes you may have, let's say, let's make sure that variable is public. So if I go here to details, right, I'm just gonna copy and paste this. And then if you tick here enable physics and disable that, press play, one is enabled, the other one is not, right? So it's just because you may have some instance that you may have one item that does not have physics or something. So it's nice to have an option, I suppose, to enable and disable, right? One thing as well I want to do here is just make sure you click on the enable physics. We're saying category, just put it inventory, yeah. So we know that this is related to the inventory and we know where to find things after, right? Okay guys, so what I want to do, the idea now is as my character get near this object, I want the object to identify and say, oh, does this character has the inventory component? If yes, then we can interact with. If it doesn't, then we cannot do anything, right? So the way to do this, there's many ways you can actually do this, right? You could actually go back in here. You can go to the player, for example, and then you can do stuff like if the player touches something that is this object and it does something, right? So what I want to do here is we want to make sure that our character can always interact with this object. But in the future, if you want to migrate this inventory system to your own game, we can do this with no problem. So I don't want to make it so it's locked to this character. I want to make it so it's like a generic component. So it's always going to work with other components. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to open up my character. I'm going to add and I'm going to go to components tab. I'm going to add something called BC inventory. Yeah. So that's an actor component. And you can actually rename this to whatever you want. I'm just going to leave inventory for now. And that's all you need to do for now. Right. Now let's finish set up the actor, the item itself. Right. So normally when you want to do things like when the player touch and do something and will trigger something else, what you do here, you're going to add a sphere. Right, so you're gonna go here. We're gonna add a trigger, so a sphere collision, right? And the size of that sphere, let's make it something like 300 for now. Let's see, I think that's too big. It's gonna make it 200 for now, right? And the way you can see this sphere in game to make sure is the size you want. What you do here is you select the sphere. I'm gonna just name it. I'm just gonna put the sphere as a parent of the mesh. So it's gonna be the item mesh. I'm gonna rename that and item interaction, right? And the way you actually see that sphere on game, you select the sphere and then you search for hidden in game. You just make that is false for now. Compile and save, press play, and then you should be able to see that sphere in there, right? So it's fine, it's not too big, character can interact with. Right, so one thing I want to do here as well is just want to make sure every time I press play, it creates a new window. So yeah, there you go. So if, for example, if I'm here, press play, it comes in there and I can see the game straight away, yeah? So just to do that, just go in here and mark new window editor, yeah. Cool. So now we need to make sure that this sphere check if the actor has the component, and then if he has the component, we can do certain things with this. So the first thing you want to do, let's figure out the first problem, is when the player touch this, we want to do something for now. Right. So to do that, I'm just going to go here to the event graph. I'm going to select my item sphere there. I'm going to clear the search. And here we have a couple of things, a couple of events. We have on components being overlap, and overlap, and a bunch of other ones. The one I want to use is on components begin overlap and on components end overlap, right? So basically begin is when you start to touch the actor, the sphere, and the on end overlap is when you leave the area. For example, right? If I want to test this for now, I'm just gonna create here so it prints something so we can see that's working. So the way you actually debug things, one of the many ways you can actually debug in Unreal, you can call a node call. You just call here something called print string. We also have print text, but I recommend to use the print string. You can do more stuff with it. And this, I'm gonna change here to hello. Just gonna in range. I'm gonna open up this, and I'm gonna make sure the color is like pink. I'm gonna copy and paste here. I'm gonna change this color to blue, and I'm gonna just say out of range. Right. There we go. So if I come in here, I'm just gonna make sure that window is a little bit bigger. Yeah. So right now, if you notice in here, you're gonna, or I'm clicking that, it should display the in range, out of range. But now we have a problem. Like, this thing doesn't know if our character has the inventory attached to it, because I know it has, so we know that, oh, okay, that may be working, but we kind of want to make sure that only that message only display if the character has the let me open up my player here. I only want to display that message if the actor has this BC inventory. So how do we do this, right? So the first thing we want to do here is we want to use this other actor. So if I just quickly show here what does this output, when I press play, this output the actor name. You see that? RPG demo character C101, because it's the first instance, right? So what I want to do here is I want to get, and there's a node in there called has component or component by class, right? And what you want to do here, the component, so there's a method called get component by class, yeah? So get component by class. The class of the components we're looking for here is called BC inventory, right? I'm just gonna copy and paste. I'll copy and paste stuff, right? So you could do stuff as well. Like you could create a variable in there, but for this case, we're just gonna be using this here, right? So I'm gonna see what is the outcome of this. What does it print? How does it actually display the name? Let's see if it's actually working. That is actually working. If you see that. Now, if you come in here to the character, we're gonna just remove this, delete that, just so we can test it. That is not printing anything. Yeah. There's a more accurate way as well. You can actually make sure this is good. You call a node is valid, right? The second one. Don't worry about the first one. So then we make sure that is valid. The actor has the component. If it's valid, then we can print a string like is valid. And then if it's not, just print another string called not valid, right? And then if I press play, not valid, sorry, just missed that. It's a mistake in there. And if I want to add the components there again, it's gonna add the BC inventory, compile save. I'll save it as well, press play, and then should go and say is valid, which is nice. So right now we know if the character has the component or not. So if you attach that component to a vendor, to anything you want, as long as the actor, it will work for them, right?